Richard Chenevix's Trench, 1807 to 1886, the Dean of Westminster Abbey, along with Herbert Coleridge, 1830 to 1861, and Frederick Furnivall, 1825 to 1910, both lawyers turned literary scholars who suggested the creation of a new dictionary. This was to be the first dictionary that described language. Until then, the major English dictionaries, such as Dr. Samuel Johnson's in the 18th century, were prescriptive texts, telling their readers what words should mean and how they should be spelt, pronounced, and used. In 1857, these men proposed to the London Philological Society, one of the scholarly societies that was such a hallmark of their day, the creation of an entirely new dictionary, no patch upon old garments, but a new garment throughout. Coleridge became the first editor of the New English Dictionary, as the OED was first called, but he died 2 years into the job. Frederick Furnivall took over for 20 years, until he was replaced in 1879 by a schoolmaster in London called James Augustus Henry Murray, 1837 to 1915. Before moving to Oxford, Murray tried to combine teaching at Mill Hill School with work on the dictionary. The dictionary won out. It was at Mill Hill that Murray had started to compile the dictionary inside his house, but the vast quantities of books and slips threatened to crowd out his growing family. In time, he and his wife Ada would have 11 children. Ada eventually put her foot down, insisting that he build an iron shed in the garden and use that as his office. It was nicknamed the Scriptorium. When Murray moved to Oxford in 1884 to work solely on the dictionary, his family and the Scriptorium went with him. It was partially dug into the ground, so Murray and his small team of editors laboured on the dictionary for the next 30 years in dank and cold conditions, often wrapping their legs in newspaper to stay warm. Over the years, he was helped by paid editorial assistants and joined by 3 key editors who subsequently became chief editors in their own right: Henry Bradley, William Craigie, and Charles Onions. The new dictionary would trace the meaning of words across time and describe how people were actually using them. The founders, however, were smart enough to recognize that the mammoth task of finding words in their natural habitat and describing them in such a rigorous way could never be done alone by a small group of men in London or Oxford. The OED was the Wikipedia of the 19th century, a huge crowdsourcing project in which, over 70 years, between 1858 and 1928, members of the public were invited to read the books that they had to hand and to mail to the editor of the dictionary examples of how particular words were used in those books. The volunteer readers were instructed to write out the words and sentences on small 4 by 6 inch pieces of paper, known as slips. In addition to being readers, volunteers could help as sub-editors, who received bundles of slips for pre-sorting, chronologically and into senses of meaning, and as specialists, who provided advice on the etymologies, meaning, and usage of certain words. Most people worked for free, but a few were paid, and the editorial assistants formed 2 groups, one under the leadership of Murray in the Scriptorium, and the other managed by Henry Bradley at the old Ashmolean building in the centre of Oxford. In the first 20 years, this system of crowdsourcing enlisted the help of several hundred helpers. It expanded considerably under James Murray, who sent out a global appeal for people to read their local texts and send in their local words. It was important for Murray that everyone adhere strictly to scientific principles of historical lexicography and find the very first use of a word. Readers received a list of 12 instructions on how to select a word, which included
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.